I hear a lot of people complaining about everything in this country, but I am the one who chose to come here. So basically what I'm complaining is about my choice. I feel like social media can deceive a lot of people. Yes, because I have a lot of struggles. I have a lot of things that goes on in my life. But one thing I tell you, if I post something that I did, I was very happy about it.
When we talk about immigrants and numbers, we stop seeing people. But when we put faces to the stories, we can finally feel.
Douglas, for people meeting you for the first time, let me know who's Douglas today.
All right, so who's Douglas today? I'm definitely someone more experienced than when I came to US 19 years ago. So I know more the language than I used to be, I used to know before, and I have more experience in life and more mature in a lot of things. Not as mature in other things, but I'm still growing and learning more for sure.
You know, I follow your social media for some times, and I'm amazed about the way you live your life. And we're going to have questions about that. I've always been intrigued because you have a very, very active life, right? For what I've seen over the years. I don't know if that changed, but so let's go with the second question. So obviously, you have a Brazilian shirt, so you're from Brazil, so you're a migrant to the U.S. Who were you before you got here, and what drive you to come to the U.S. and how was that process?
Well, honestly, I never intended to come to US. Never went through my mind actually to go to a different country as I was growing up. But I served LDS mission and I met my ex-wife now, my wife then. So I met her there, and after a good year or so, we did all the paperwork and such, and I was able to get here to come to America. I lived in Oregon for about 5 years before I moved to Utah, and I had a fantastic experience in Oregon. And since then, I moved to Utah, and I got divorced in that period of time. Had my two boys, and once they moved here, I moved to be close to them as well.
Very good. So let's move to the next. So you talk about your immigration process. So you were in a fiancé visa, right? That kind of stuff.
Correct.
Because
Yes.
my wife is Ukrainian and she came here with a fiancé visa as well. So before you came to USA, talk about who you were before you got here.
So I served a mission, LDS mission, in south of Brazil. And before that, I lived in São Paulo, a city called Hortolândia, very small city about an hour from the capital. And just went to high school there. And because of being involved with the church and all the activities, I was always into sports. But here's the thing: in Brazil, it's not like in America, where when they say
Right.
you're involved in sports, you're going to a track team or going to soccer team. No,
Right.
it's just you being active.
Right.
I loved being active back then, and basically my life changed more after my mission when I met my then wife and then moved here. I was always the type of person that always including everybody, making parties and events, and try to stay connected. I was the body president, the student body president in my school, and that was a fantastic experience. I'm not shy, so I like the attention, so being involved with everybody was always my thing. I loved that part in my life.
I can see that because as we dive more into your story, I want to talk about the kind of life you live because I'm always been intrigued. So I know you very little, right? I know you from social media. When I got divorced back in Utah, is when I started meeting all the singles, and you were one of those guys that were one of the single groups, and that's how I met you. And I follow you on social media. but I'm always being amazed by the kind of life you live, right? Because from a sport activity perspective, always positive, laughing, joking, doing what I think is crazy stuff, right? But
Yeah, well, some
that's
people, I know since I was a kid, since I was 6 years old that I could remember, people always called me crazy. Você é
really
louco. Yeah, but here's the thing. My perspective is that I like to do things that usually people don't do. I would say I'm level 2, where we have those guys doing backflips on cliff jumping, that those
right,
are level 10, I don't
right,
do things that will be too dangerous for me. I have just
right,
like to enjoy,
right,
live life in a way that I'm able to be satisfied with.
right. You would say you will go crazy, but crazy to a point where it would satisfy you, as you say. That it's not a dead of a life situation, but it is enjoyable.
Yeah.
And basically, most people don't live that kind of life, even level 2. Um, that's great. So as we go into we're going to dive into your story deeper. Right? So you're in Utah.
Yes.
This is where like we're going into this right now, where like I told you, I met you through these single groups, and then I follow your life. So what drive you to be like that? Because let me tell the audience first, and then I'll let you dive into what you do, because I saw you join like maybe hiking or some kind of jumping type of stuff. I also see you on, I think, one of the tough men competition, even from running to, I can't describe everything you did, but I always were impressed. But you were always pumped about it, like happy. Like I see you happy, always with a smile. And I think that's why I'm always keep you on my social media, because I always enjoy, I always love that about you. Even if I don't know you much, I know you very little, but that was, to me, that was good, because I wanted to be, I wanted to have that kind of example for me as well, especially back in those days, when I was just barely divorced and started a new life.
Yes. Well, I think it has a lot to do with who you want to be in life. And the first opportunity that you get, you embrace it. But here's the thing, a lot of people, they hold themselves to who they are. And I'm saying that, but I also do that. But I try to go a step beyond my comfort zone. And honestly, I don't know if I could do that in Brazil, but here in America, I have more of an opportunity. So being an immigrant here, it gives me more, like I can spread my wings, sort of
Right,
speaking.
right. How that help you as an immigrant, right? Because more immigrants are, I would say most of them, but I would say that, an immigrant in a new country always uh try to fly low, I would say, right? But in your case, you're visible. You're an immigrant and you're from Brazil, and you speak with an accent the same I do, because I speak with an accent, right? But you're not shy about it. You're just doing whatever you want. How that help you as an immigrant? Because I'm sure that it was a benefit to you.
So here's the way I see, and that's the advice that I have given to people is what I done since I moved here in 2008. I emerged into the culture. I kept
Right,
my traditions, but I emerged into the culture.
right,
Rarely criticize the American people.
right,
I can criticize the food all day long.
right,
I don't like
right,
the food here. But here's the thing. It's we come to America for a dream. Or in my case, I just landed here. It wasn't
right.
what I
It was for
expected,
love.
right? Exactly. It was for love.
Right,
So,
right,
and then I was thinking to myself, what can I do here that is not gonna impede my life back in Brazil? Like who I was. I want to expand to to be able to live life in my way, in the way that I would like to. Of course, language was an obstacle. Finances was obstacle. There's a lot of things, getting to know the culture. But I was fortunate enough to live in a ward, in a church back in Oregon that was such amazing good people. That people that embraced me. So I never had experience that some of my friends had, that they were being looked upon, you know? People embraced me, and I think that gave me more confidence to be who I was, you know? I remember going snowboarding and getting friends from church or friends from college, and we go to the mountains. We'd go hikes. I did like a 50 miles hike with the Boy Scouts. We camp all the time. I taught the scouts to chase cows, you know, and we would play around and we'd have fun, you know, going to the beach and helping them learning marriages. So everything outdoors, I loved it. I kind of grew up in that scenario, and here, every opportunity that I had, great. I took
Right.
advantage of that.
Yeah, it's something that you say that I agree with you is, when you go into a new country and if you learn the culture and you merge into the culture, as you say, it's a huge benefit, right? And then I think when you do that, first of all, now you're learning how the culture is, you're learning about the local people.
Yes,
The local people will embrace you when you do that. They will accept you because you're showing them respect. That being said, it doesn't mean that everything they do is perfect. Like, Argentina and where I'm from is not perfect. Brazil is not perfect. USA is not perfect. But you're a visitor and you're coming to a country where you decided to come, and then you merge into the culture. You show them respect, and they sort of adopt you because I think they adopted you and they let you be who you are. Because you show them that I care about your culture. I care about you. I want to learn about you, and they're learning about you. So I definitely completely agree that's the way to do it when you go into any country, no matter what it is.
yeah.
You're going to Spain, Italy, it doesn't matter. But it's a huge benefit.
So I would say, don't let the situation that you are in change who you are, or even influence your decisions. There's a lot of things that we can control as immigrants here in America. There's other things, as we know in the news, that we can't control. But there's a lot of things that we can choose and make it happen. You know, doesn't matter who is in the power, we still have our control for our own happiness. I know it's kind of cliche to say this at this moment of in 2026,
Right.
but overall, that's exactly how I think it is.
Well, absolutely, because you have control of your own destiny, right? Some things can happen on the way. I mean, you could be in a car accident or something that can change your destiny, but that's not something that you plan. That's a
Correct.
tragedy. But for the most part, you have control of your destiny or your life, and you can focus on that. You can focus who's in power or what's going on, and you try to live your life the best you can. Look, you're doing that, right? I mean, I came here and I merged into the culture as well, just like you did, and
Exactly.
it makes things much easier.
And how many amazing friends we have, you know?
But yeah,
Like, I'm so grateful for my friends here from everywhere, came all South America, all US, every state. It's like I have so many good friends that they influenced my life, I influenced their
right,
lives, and we grew together. People that I will take into my grave.
right. That's a great example because once you merge and you get out of your comfort zone, because merging into a new culture, it means you're learning the language, you're learning how they behave, how they are, accepting how they do things, right? That's getting you out of your comfort zone because for you as an immigrant in the US, going out of your comfort zone and expose who you are to being, embrace your personality, it was challenging and scary. But at the end of the day, it paid off. So there's a process that you have to go through. And I'm sure for you, Douglas, it wasn't an overnight thing. That process of merging and people liking you, understanding how you were, and you learning about them. It was a process. It wasn't an overnight situation.
No, definitely wasn't.
Right,
Especially with the language. I remember learning English, it was tough, it was very tough. Though I was able to learn. I remember that my mother-in-law, she was very talkative. Oh my goodness, she never stopped talking. And I took that as an advantage for me because I was be listening, listening, listening,
right,
and I learned a lot of English with her. So I'm so grateful for that. At
right.
home, my ex-wife, she spoke Portuguese, but then we made a not a rule, but we chose to say, hey, let's just speak English during the week and only Portuguese in the weekends. So I had English at work during the day, at home, and only on the weekends that would speak Portuguese, and that helped me so much. And I was not afraid to talk to people. I would go to the
Right.
grocery store and talk to them, and I barely knew what to say. But put yourself out there, join groups, like we have today, 2026, we have so many apps that can help to learn a language or
Right.
English, in this case. And come on, just like put yourself out there. If you are shy, there are ways that you can learn the language and still speak,
Right.
and don't get frustrated that you don't know yet, because it's a path, right? Let's say it's
Right.
level 10 is fluent and you're level 1, you still got to go all the way to 10. You cannot just skip. You got to
Right.
just, level by level until you get there.
Right. What was the hardest thing that happened to you as an immigrant? You know, what was the hardest thing, and what was the best thing that happened to you as an immigrant? If you can share.
I think, I was talking about how many grateful people that I met and such, but one thing that now I see after almost 20 years later is that people didn't tell me how things worked here. So I had to learn how to do booking, how to do taxes. I had to learn to look for jobs, and I had to learn how, like, I do construction, so how the construction industry works. Not many people taught me anything or gave me tips. So that was very difficult, and it's still, because like I'm changing my career, and it's too hard to find someone that can coach. That's my experience. Maybe other people had different experiences, but that's my experience.
Right. Did anybody ever make you feel like you don't belong here, or you suffer some kind of discrimination, or maybe you felt alone, you miss your family? Anything of that nature was ever you ever experienced?
I think it's all about how you see life. I honestly never suffered any discrimination. I had friends that did suffer because their color, because their accent, or the way they spoke, or the car they had. I honestly, maybe I'm a little too naive, or I just see too many good in people, but I never had a confrontation or any dirty look because of who I am. Though funny is that still today, because of my accent, people will choose to ignore me because of my accent. Like, in a way, like they'll say, "Oh, I did not understand what you say," or they would try to say something else and take off. I think that's the only extent that I had so far.
But you don't really give it more than just that. You ignore it pretty much. You don't
Oh,
really. Right.
completely.
Right.
Because here's the thing, it's all about perspective,
Right.
like when you receive a no from let's see, if you're knocking a door to sell an item, and you
Right.
receive a no, that no is another stepping stone for you to
Right.
receive an yes later. So
Right.
know your path, know which level you're going for.
Right.
And every time someone criticizes me because of my accent, it's like, okay, I can do better. I can do better.
Right. Right. I like that, man. That's such a way of learning, getting, pushing yourself to be better, right? Accepting criticism, whether the person is saying it in a good way or a bad way, you're taking it, you're making it positive for you, and to embrace you, to, to push yourself forward, to do better and be better and speak better. That's a good way to do things, in my opinion. Because I think in many ways I'm similar to you, because I never been discriminated either. And maybe I'm too naive, as you say, or maybe I see too much good in people. But when someone tells me something, a feedback or a criticism about the way I speak or something, I just tell them, okay, good. How can I pronounce this better? And I even tell my friends, I say, look, if you say something wrong, correct me. because I don't care. I mean, it's not my native language, so I'm expected to make mistake. So just tell me, correct me. I don't take it offensive. And I don't call that discrimination either. And most of my friends tell me this is how you pronounce this, and I improve it over time, right?
Yeah.
So
And I'll tell you, it sucks because being here for 20 years and I still get corrected.
right,
But you know what? It's a life experience,
right,
like I'm fluent in English, but I still haven't grasped entirely, So
right.
it's probably another 20 years gonna pass by.
Well, look, I have over 30 years in the U.S., and people say you have over 30 years, you still speak English like that? I say, yeah. So it's true. I mean, I cannot get rid of my accent. I mean, Argentine and Spanish we have such a strong pronunciation. We cannot just get rid of our accent that easy. So even if we know the words, what they mean, or how to say it, our accent plays against me all the time.
Well, come on, we are here right now speaking in English,
Right,
right?
right, right. And we understand each other. Right, 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 right. So, anyways, let's dive into uh relationship. Right? You say you were divorced and you remarry, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. So talk about that. Tell me whatever you want to say.
So funny because we both we met each other on a single scenes, right? I met my ex-wife down in Brazil. We got married about a year and a half ago. After that, I moved here. We live in Oregon, and it was beautiful there. I love Oregon. My two boys were born there, and unfortunately, I have to leave. People there are great. Oh my goodness, it's a place I would like to retire one day because
Oregon is beautiful, by the way. It's beautiful. I
it's so many
visited a few
trees.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, it just rains too much, but it's fantastic. And fortunately, we fought too much, and we divorced, and that was not pleasant for sure. She moved here with my boys to be close to her parents, and I moved back to be close to the boys, and I had to redo my life here. I had a business back in Oregon for landscaping, and things were doing well there, but I chose to leave everything behind and start new. In about 2013, 2014, that's when I started going to the single scenes and start dating, getting to know more people and such. Mm, It was fun. It was a good experience. I met a lot of people like you, and people that I still friends today, and people that are remarkable in my life, and I love them still. When I talk about relationship, I think it's a growing experience. If I look back, uh, I would do differently. I think I was too much in the play mode, instead looking for an actual companion. That's something that I gotta live with, but we just learn and grow, and we cannot change the past, but we can just move forward. I eventually got married again with a girl from Utah, and that didn't last more than a year, and that was rough as well. Just 5 years ago, I met my wife. She's from Czech Republic, and she's beautiful, and she's gorgeous, the most organized and clean person that I ever met.
Yeah.
She's very structured and centered. So, and I am very disorganized. So that helps a lot in our relationship because she's helped me grow a lot. We got married about 2 years ago, and she's pregnant. So we're gonna have a baby this year. So
Congratulations.
thank you. We're very excited about that. Actually, this is the first time we're telling in public. So
Right. Yeah.
I haven't announced on Facebook yet. But yeah, we are very excited for this new phase of our lives. And relationship, it's hard. It's definitely challenging, especially with a European girl and a guy from Brazil. It's a very mixed culture that we have,
Right.
Now we're talking about raising a kid that will be speaking 3 languages.
Right.
So
Right.
that's going to be very challenging, but exciting.
Right. Well, I feel privileged that I'm the first one to know that you guys gonna have a baby. And, thanks for giving me that privilege. Now, so there are a couple of things I wanna, caught my attention, and I wanna discuss with you. You know, uh, you were married to, so your last two marriages they were both American, right?
Yes.
So that was also a mixed cultural relationship that you have, and they didn't work out. I understand. So I wanted to clear that out, and then your single life. Are you able to talk about your single life? How it is
Yeah.
to date as an immigrant, right? Because I've been there before. You say you were divorced in 2014.
Yes.
Okay,
So a little bit before that. Yes.
right. So I separated in 2013. Towards the end of 2013, my divorce came through in 2014. So that's we're about the same time. That's probably why we met.
Yes.
Some of these things, this meeting for single people. But yeah, I'm intrigued about your experience because mine wasn't that great. So what was your story? What it is to date
So like
as an immigrant in the U.S.
I I have a interesting story. I told you before. It's all about perspective.
Right,
I came to Utah, and I felt very judgy by being divorced, and I cared too much what other people thought about that. But I went on a date with this girl, and I liked her. I just had a car accident, so I didn't have my car. So she picked me up at my place. We went on a fantastic date. She dropped me off, a couple dates, and I was like, "Wow, I like her." So she was about to drop me off in front of the house. We were talking. Said, "Say, hey, I gotta confess something to you. I'm divorced and I have two kids." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then we talked a little bit more, conversation there, and never saw her again. And I felt so much sorry for myself for being in that position. And time passed by. I went for a few more dates and felt more confident, and got to a point where I would say, "Hey, I'm Douglas. I'm divorced. Got two kids. Nice to meet you."
right,
It
right,
was a different perspective, It's like, okay, like, hey, I got a lot. I already have experience. Bring it on. You know,
right,
it's so for me, it was more about gaining confidence on myself, talking to women, because basically I only dated my 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 ex-wife. She was basically my first girlfriend, so I
right,
didn't have any experience.
right,
And on a single scenes, what helped me a lot was doing events. I don't know if you remember, but a lot of people will remember that I used to throw parties and doing events, go
right.
to the lakes, to go
Mm-hmm.
to do night dances and such.
Yeah.
And Cable, you remember Cable
Yes,
Jenkins?
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we did some parties, some events, and I was always here and there going to some cruises, like was always involved. There's moments that I would work for 12 hours, get home, take a shower, go to a party, go to an event, and then doing all over again, several times a week and such. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I met a lot of people, made a lot of friends, got to date some fantastic women and people that we chose to be friends later on. We're still good friends. So it was something for sure.
My biggest, one of my biggest issue when I was dating. I don't want to talk much about my stuff because this is your story. Um, One was I was short. I'm 5'7", 5", so I'm not 5'10" or 5'11". Even 5'10", 5'11" is short for the United States. You know,
Yeah.
that's a short man, and I'm 5'7", 5", right? So I'm even shorter, and so that's one. And then making I was at that time I was making $60,000 a year salary, and
Hmm.
I have a degree in technology, but that was early in my career because I switched career during my divorce, and then so I started working. So as a new hire in that new industry, I was making 60K a year, and that did not help me much in my dating experience.
Hmm.
And then, being an immigrant, not having an American culture, is not something that someone told me on my face, like, hey, we don't date you because you're Argentinian. But I know that played against me because of competition. Like when you believe it or not, there's a competition when you're dating,
Yeah.
and you see the same guy, a guy that's probably 5'11", you know, or even 5'10", they fit, they have okay job. It's hard to compete against those people. So I ended up getting married someone. I started looking outside of Utah, and my wife is from Ukraine, so I ended up going to Ukraine, and we've been together for 8 years now.
Nice.
But yeah, almost 9 already. But
That's
that was my
great.
experience. But other than that, it was a great experience because everything else you experience is good. That experience led me to make a different decision, which maybe I was supposed to do. Right?
Hmm.
But yeah, dating as an immigrant wasn't easy for me, at least in Utah. I think if you go to maybe, I don't know, Louisiana, where I live today, because I'm in Louisiana, or some other country would probably be easier. But Utah was tough.
Utah was tough because Utah was like the first date. It was always like an interview. It's like it's just like it wasn't like about the conversation, get to know the person. It was about like a job interview,
Right,
and I didn't like that.
right,
So I stopped going to dinners. Like,
right,
hey, let's go on a hike or let's go ice skating because
right,
this, like, I felt like, oh, okay, so you didn't pass the interview out. You didn't pass
right,
out. It's like, you don't get to
right,
know me. You just like treat me as a job interview. I didn't like that.
right, right. Yeah, that's exactly how you say it. That's how it was for me. And, I wasn't, I didn't, whatever question they have, I guess I did not meet all the expectation because, like I said, I wasn't a tall guy. And in Utah, there's a lot of tall people there, a lot.
Yeah,
But besides that, your financial situation, it doesn't help you because everybody wants to marry,
doesn't.
the guy that makes the six figures and successful career. And yeah, it was tough, but look, it was a great experience because that eventually led me to where I am today.
Hmm.
And that's what it is. You can turn that into a negative or a life lesson. And for me, it was an
Exactly.
absolutely life lesson what I learned. And I know that was Utah for me. There could be someone else that was just like me. They had a different experience, and maybe it was just better than mine, or maybe perfect, or maybe if you live in another state, you have a complete different experience that I have, and completely positive. So that was my experience. Doesn't mean that that's the Utah is like that, but that's the way I experienced it. And maybe someone else did not have that problem at all. It was just completely the opposite.
Yes.
Anyway, moving out of the dating scenario, I wanted to share that what it is to what the experience is to date in the United States as an immigrant. So you say you're in a multicultural relationship right now again, right, with someone from
Hmm.
Europe. And that's funny because at my house we use English to communicate because I don't speak Ukrainian, right? So
Hmm.
you probably, I don't know, you speak the language that your wife speak, but you guys use English. And my dog don't even know what language we speak. We because we mix everything, man. We have our own language that we made up, and then we have our own languages, and then we use English. It's chaotic sometimes, but it's fun.
Yes. No, so like I went to Czech a couple times and I've been studying the language for a couple years and I can say a few words, a few sentences, but nothing in depth. I actually start to learn other language and I stopped that one, but the goal is for me to learn as much as Czech as possible. So when our baby is born, I know that she's gonna be speaking Czech to our baby, and I want to understand enough,
Right.
because I think it's so important for the kid to know multiple languages, especially nowadays. Before it was enough to speak just an extra language, but I think it's more beneficial to speak other language. They say that the language that you know is another world, so you live in different worlds if you speak more languages.
Absolutely. So how is your relationship different than migrating to the United States? Because if you think about it, right, you just say you try to learn her culture, the language, right? That's kind of what you did when you came to the U.S., right? You say, well, this is another culture I had to merge, So when you are in a relationship, you have different cultures, like you or mine, for example. It's a similar concept because if not, in a multicultural relationship, it could be catastrophic if you don't merge. So how's your
Exactly.
experience with that?
So, I went there, of course, to ask her parents her hand, and it was tough. Thanks goodness I had Google to help me.
Yeah,
And actually, when I proposed to her, uh, I proposed under a bunch of umbrellas. We have about like 20 umbrellas, those beautiful, colorful umbrellas. But I was the one who got them, you know,
right,
to be in a country that you don't speak the language and try to find umbrellas, like to buy, I think about like 40 umbrellas or something like that. And in a small town, it was challenging. So I had to definitely use my skills to talk to people, try to find here and there,
right,
going there because she was working and I had to do all by myself, you know. Luckily, I was able to get everything. I had to get a restaurant, talk to the owner, all in check, and be able
right,
to install everything. So I I had to go back and forth here, try to find ways to connect with other people, and I think that's the whole key to a relationship is connection.
right,
Like I tried to connect with her family, her friends, and amazing people, you know. And of course, it helps when you know the ride,
right,
but
right,
it's so important for you not to stand still, but to go and act. If you wanted something, I was able to find in check, find a mechanic and fix her parents' cars and clean it up and do like a tune up and set, and they're impressed with me because
right,
like, well, he doesn't know the language, but he was able to find these places. So it's all about actions. If you want to learn, be in a culture, in a culture, just gotta find ways,
right.
to get things done.
That says a lot about you, man, because that's basically what you did in the U.S., right? You did not stay still. You emerged into the culture. You went into a country that it was new to you, and then you found a way to communicate with people. The key is communication. It's that simple, right? And communicating, it's going to open doors. You did whatever you had to do to make that happen in a country that you didn't speak the language, and that says about you. Why for you, uh, you know, merge to the American culture was that it was easy, right? Because you put I mean, I won't say that it was easy, but you put the effort to do it and you make it happen. And that simplify
Exactly.
your life. And that simplify your life in this new country that you went for a temporary time just to propose to your wife. But the same thing applies for your marriage because you have to learn about your wife culture to be able to merge in a
Hmm.
relationship because at home she might she might do things that you're not used to because it's a cultural difference,
Yes.
and you don't understand. And I experienced the same thing. Like I had to learn her culture so we can survive in this relationship. And the same with the US. Like you learn the American culture, any country you migrate, you have to learn the culture. So in a multi cultural relationship, you have to apply the same method. You have to learn your spouse or wife or husband culture because if not, you're setting yourself for failure.
Exactly. Resistance. If you resist too much,
Right,
you're not gonna win. You know.
right,
Here's the thing. I hear a lot of people complaining about everything in this country,
right.
but I am the one who chose to come here. So basically, what I'm complaining is about my choice.
Absolutely.
For example, I don't like the hamburgers here.
Right,
So what I do, I make churrasco, Brazilian barbecue.
right,
Like, okay, let's leave it's just an analogy, right? Like just an example.
right,
Leave the hamburger on the side, and I'll go and make my own barbecue, like the way I like.
right,
And I think a lot of people complain about things that they can control.
right. If we want to dive deeper into that topic, I think from the moment you leave your country, you're taking a chance. So like anything in life, you're getting a job. If you're applying for a job, you're taking a chance, you're taking an opportunity, right? You might do well, you might do wrong. It might not be the job that you want, and then you leave because you quit. That's not the job you wanted. They don't pay you
Mhm.
enough. If you want to get married, you're taking a chance on a person. You get married, and then you get divorced. You got divorced. I got divorced. It didn't work out, but that was a decision I made. I cannot blame my parents, anybody, for the person I choose, or even the person I choose. I couldn't blame because I choose them, right? So it was my decision. So I'm not going to blame my ex-wife for things not working out. We both choose each other. We made a mistake. I own that piece, right? So when you
Exactly.
migrate to another country, as you say, that's your choice. So you're choosing to go to another country. Once you're leaving, there's a chance that things might not work, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
the risk. People migrate here in different ways. Some of them come legally, some of them illegally. You're taking a chance that the risk and the consequences, right? So as you say, I'm not saying this or agreeing with you because I want to be mean. I'm saying this because that's a reality. You're making a choice.
Exactly.
You're making a choice. I could be picked up today and sent back to Argentina, but that's a choice that I made in the 90s. Who could I blame for this,
Exactly.
right? So it is a choice. It is a choice. You can make it harder or complain about the situation, or just accept it and just understand that how it is, and that's how it is. It makes it easier because you're always a victim, right? And
Yeah.
we had the right to make choices. And you went to see your wife in Czech Republic, and you choose to communicate with people to make something beautiful for your wife. That was a choice, right?
Exactly.
So yes, I completely agree with you. All right, so let's dive into your faith, because you talk about the church, and I want to know about your faith. Talk about that as much as you want to.
Yes. So my father, he was always looking for a religion as I grew up because my parents were divorced and I grew up with my dad, my sister and my dad and I. And we would always go to church here and there. And one time the missionaries, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they they were walking by our house and my dad talked to them, started listening to the discussions, and it felt very good. I remember I was 11 years old and everything that they taught made sense. And so we got baptized in the church. I spent my teenage years in the church and served my mission in south of Brazil in Santa Maria Mission. Actually, as you know, I have a podcast as well that I interview the companions that I had, and it's fantastic. Everything is in Portuguese. It's called Amada Missão. So that 2 years that we had, we always talk about how things were. You remember or rescue those good memories we had. That's where I met my ex-wife. Serving LDS mission was a fantastic experience to me. I grew a lot. I learned a lot. I learned who I was, and I I was able to connect with people, to inspire people, to get inspired by other people, and made long friends, long lifetime friends, and people that I still connected with, and people that I love just like I love my family. So being exposed for 2 years on the streets, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, it it has a different taste of life. There's a lot of people that they're atheist, they don't believe in God. And the way I see is this: there's people that believes in God and there's people that don't, right? So why do I have to criticize whoever doesn't believe in God? Why they have to criticize me because they believe? So uh, it's all about respect, right? You have your opinion, I have mine. I don't believe you. I I don't believe in your opinion. Okay, that's it. We can talk about it. We can go on for it. Now, if you come to me and you start criticizing me because of what I believe, I think that's very disrespectful, very wrong. So I had encounters like this throughout my life. And I think the whole point is about what Jesus Christ taught us, right? Which is love thy neighbor and as thyself. So we cannot fix anything with criticism, cannot fix anything with violence, with disrespect. And maybe people will raise a question like, what is there to fix? Fair enough, because life is as people perceive, as people think about how things are.
Right.
Who am I to say that God is real? And who are you to say that God is not real?
Right.
You know, like people believe in Buddha, believe in Allah, believing in God, in any other things. So I believe that God is real, that He exists, and He's my Father, and I'm His Son. And that's how I chose to live my life. For me, it's so important to have that faith in Him, and I understand that religion, it's a very delicate topic when people are facing so many things in this world. You know, we have violence, we have chaos, we have
Right.
wars and unpeaceful places to live in.
Right.
It's hard. You know, I face myself with my challenge every day. You know, actually, I'm changing the time belt of my car today, and things are not going back together. And I'm there like, why? Like, how come I have to experience this challenge in my life? You know, so I'm like being a little negative, you know? But then I look like, hey, this is what we're supposed to have in our lives, is having challenge so we can grow, so I can fix that car and learn from that, you know? So I don't have to pay $1,000 to a mechanic because
Right.
I can learn that. I know how to do it, just I'm not a mechanic. But just and as an example. So my faith is important so I can be one day in front of God and say, hey, I believe in you. I live my life according to what you have required, which of course it's hard, live the commandments of God,
Right.
to live what He asks us to live with. So it's ongoing thing. We are on a horse, you know, galloping, and then we fall.
Right.
And then we get up, go back on the horse, and keep on going.
Right.
Life is about that. We choose to stay down when we fall and complain that we're falling. But I wasn't holding the hairs correctly.
Right.
So accountability, right? So when I make
Right.
mistakes, I fall. I just got to, you know what? I just got to keep on going. That's what we have. The agency, the choice to get up and keep on going.
Right. That's important, man, and all good points that you explain over there. And I think actions speak more than words. Right? So I think regardless of your faith, if your actions are good, then that speak for itself. And that doesn't mean that you have to choose one person or the other because of their religion. It's just the action what matters, and you shouldn't criticize other people's faith. It's just you can disagree or agree. I mean, if you think about politics, it's the same way. People choose one side or the other, but you can you can be another side with respect about different opinions. And I think I'm always gonna follow that person that the action's gonna be bigger than their words, right? So
Yes. So
yes,
for me, I feel like this. On the end of the day, we're, we're going to be in front of God. And He's going to say, hey, did you help your neighbor go through this life? Did you help your kids? Did you help your wife, your parents? So let's say that we're not talking about the religion anymore. We know, every single person know what is right, what is wrong,
absolutely,
what is good, what is evil. So are you being kind? Are you being nice with the person next to you? Are you not judging them?
right,
Are you let them live their lives the way they want to live their lives?
right,
Are you influence them to good?
right,
Are you opening the door when you go to the grocery, or are you saying hi to someone, smiling to someone?
right,
Or are you just gonna be grumpy all the time because you're on selfish problems?
right,
There's a way more good energy out
right.
there that we can pass along and just make that world a little bit better by just one kindness act.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful, beautiful. Say, I like that. I like it. All right, so let's go into let's talk about last part of the podcast. We're gonna talk about your career, right? What is your career? I mean, you say you had a construction company. You're still doing construction. What is your career today? What do you do?
Yes, so I recently joined the military. I'm 40 years old, and I joined the army, and it's in Utah National Guard, so it's just 1 week in the month. So I went to training for half the year and went through boot camp and all this stuff. And I had a fantastic time because I like all the physical parts, so it
Right.
was very enjoyable. So that's what I do on 1 week in a month, and I have my business still, my construction business. So I do landscaping and do fencing, and but the whole point of actually doing the military is so I can transition to a different career. So I'm still working on that right now, and I feel like I use my body way too much in construction,
Hi.
and I think I'm slowly transitioning to other things in my life now. I had years of experience doing construction, where I worked remodeling, demolitions, and doing all the outside of the house basically, and enjoyed those moments. I had many employees on the past, and most immigrants, which was a fantastic experience. I learned Spanish by just working with my guys,
Hmm.
and I traveled to other countries where I was able to speak Spanish, so that was very helpful. And I also adventure in some investments, some other ventures that bring some income here and there. And it's been fun. It's been fun.
That's good, man. Are you looking to learn a career within the army? So then you apply that career in the civilian world, or you just want to stay in the army forever?
Well, so
Because
the
you're
army,
talking about transitioning, right? So that's why I was asking.
correct. So basically, the army pays for my college, and since I haven't finished my bachelor's yet, so that's where I'm heading to get my finish my bachelor's,
Hi.
and the army is gonna pay for everything. So that's how I'll be able to transition.
Good. That's answer my question. That's what I was asking, right? So that's good.
Yes.
That's a smart move. I mean, you're taking a big chance to join the army, but it's not a. There's always a risk, right? But yeah, they pay for your school. My son served 5 years in the army. He did
Wow.
his contract. He's out. My older son is 30 right now, and yeah, he been out for a while. But yeah. Anyways, look, man, I love to have you on my podcast. It was great. I enjoy having a
Anytime.
conversation. Really, I admire your life. You know, for what I've seen in social media, your positivity. You're always with a smile. That's one thing I always notice, man. You always smiling on every picture. The smile is not small. It's like from here to here. Like, man, this guy is genuinely happy. I'm not. I know life is not perfect, but that's who you are, and you
You
embrace
know,
it.
interesting you're saying that. Just a little bit on that topic. I feel like social media can deceive a lot of people. Yes, because I have a lot of struggles. I have a lot of things that goes on in my life. But one thing I tell you, if I post something that I did, I was very happy about it. That I was very through with it,
Right,
and I think that's the moments I'd like to share with friends,
right,
so they know what's going on in my life. So I can look back and I know what was going on in my life, but that moment was not a dull moment for sure.
right. That's good, man. So about your podcast, anybody can hear your podcast, or that's just for your members of your faith?
It's very narrowed. We have just the only people that would make sense to listen. It'll be people from my mission.
Okay,
It's it's not something that I'm trying to grow for people to listen.
okay,
Once because it's Portuguese, the other
right,
is for one short period of time, just 2000
Right.
2004 to 2006, you know, so
Right.
it's very narrow for people to listen. But if you serve Mission Santa Maria, please listen to our podcast for sure.
Cool. That's what I was thinking, because I want to put the information on the description, but if it's a narrow audience, it might not be worth it. I mean, up to you.
Yeah,
You
it's
let me
not
know
worth it.
later.
Yeah.
All right, Douglas. Thank you for being on my podcast. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was a great conversation. I always gonna be thank you, brother. Thank you for
Thank you.
giving
I
me your time.
appreciate it. I appreciate it that you are doing this, and it's very good initiative, and keep doing. And I will definitely share your podcast with people.
Thank you, man.